Hello? Is anybody there? Hello? Hello, hello?
I'm here.
Bones is here? Thank goodness.
In the distance.
In the distance. Bones. Mickey. Hello. My goodness, there are people here.
They missed you.
Hi.
They missed you.
Manica misses you. She's... Alexa, stop.
No, we missed you. I missed you.
Bones misses me?
No, I missed Chad.
Bones misses
We
Chad.
missed Chad.
I didn't miss Chad. No, I did. Bones says, they missed you.
Sorry, Fado has the mic.
Fado has the mic. Fado, get off the mic. No. Fado says blem blem. Hello. Hello, Trix. Hello, Chloe. Hello, Orzori. Hello, hello. So we are doing our critique stream today. It'll just be me again. Bones doesn't have any writing currently to read. So it's just me looking at art. Who would like to go first? Oh, I should also say at the top of the stream, if you would like your stuff critiqued, we can look at it next month. We do these monthly streams, and you can do it by becoming a YouTube member or joining the Patreon. The link is above my head if you want to join the Patreon. Either one works, just whatever suits you better. And we can look at art, we can look at writing, we can look at comic pages, character designs. The one I have up on the screen right now, he's asking for like graphic design critique, so there's all sorts we can do. I'll try to have something written for next month. Blast, you gotta give Bones some work. Oh, I have to put on my dumb little glasses so I can see. Oh, my smart glasses.
Now she has some things to say.
Now I can say smart things. YouTube members can get critiques. Yes, if you join at the $8 tier, we can give you critiques, just like the Patreon members. But yeah, we have a few people today. I wanted to ask if comic logos can be critiqued. Yeah, definitely. I can look at logos. True, I do graphic design. I've even done some logos. So I could totally give you critiques.
Critique websites?
Yeah, true. I can look at websites. I maybe can't tell you how to fix programming stuff on a website. Cause I'm not so good at coding, but I can give you feedback on the design.
No, that's my cup, you little bitch.
Whoa.
She put her face in my cup.
Miku is harassing Bones. So we have a few people today. We have Mouth, we have Laurence, Nali, and Chloe. Who would like to go first? I mean, Chloe is here. I don't know if Nali will be here. They usually are away during the streams. You guys hear Madoka going boo? She's in her kennel because she has to be quiet. It's only 5 p.m. I got nothing else, so I can go whenever. I mean, I could look at yours first. Might as well, since you're here. Alright, what did you say? So 3 character designs for a critique. The first is Captain Legacy Charles, minor character in a romance thriller. And okay, and then the other 2. Alright, who are from different stories. Or one different story. Okay. So, I think I vaguely remember this comic, because I've seen some of your comics through the critiques. I think this one's like a military spy thriller type thing, if I'm remembering correctly. And this is a minor character. Okay. What a name. Legacy Charles. Yee. Okay, okay. I remember this. Okay. Let me see. Let me see. Alright, I'll give vibes first. Okay. This character feels like... He feels like comic relief. Like, he feels like he's cracking jokes and being a silly guy in the background. He's like a friend of the main characters, or like a coworker friend kind of thing. And he feels very, like, he can maybe like be cool in like cool situations, but he feels like he's got like a sense of humor on him. He seems like chipper. And yeah, friendly, cracking jokes, but can get down to business when he needs to. Oh, I just noticed in the bio it says that he's married. He does have a kind of dad vibe. He looks younger than his age. If he's almost 60, he looks younger to me. He looks like maybe a guy in his 30s at the most. I'm not exactly sure why. I think he just doesn't have a... I mean, he has some lines on his face. Like, it's very noticeable here. He's got some of the, like, the crow's feet. But he just feels like he has a younger kind of face. He doesn't feel like a guy in his 50s, almost 60s. But that's fine. Sometimes characters can like look younger than they are. But if you did want to make him look older, I'd recommend just adding like... It doesn't necessarily like you need to add gray to his hair or anything, but I feel like his face needs more like age lines to it. I keep forgetting his wrinkles. Yeah. But I think if you like highlight the crow's feet and maybe some like lines on his face, like laugh lines or something, I think that'll help a lot. Wrinkle him up, exactly. Yeah. So that's the vibe I get. He does have a dad bod. So that helps. He's got like the muscles, but also the dad tummy, and we love that for him. Okay. Okay, so shape-wise, he's very squared off. He does have some of these like triangle shapes, obviously, in his hair. But there's also kind of like a square silhouette to everything. So there's like a squareness to his torso, to his whole body shape, to a lot of the shapes in his like clothing, shape of his head. I think, and I do like the triangles added to the squareness of the face. I do like how his face his face is framed by his hair this way to give it that kind of like square shape. I think that really helps with like the silhouetting. But I do like how there is the triangle stuff like cut into the square. I think you could bring that in to his clothing a bit more. It is hard because he's obviously like wearing a uniform, and you do have like a military story where they are going to be wearing uniforms. I'm trying to think if you could bring it into his silhouette somehow. That is hard. Because, like, because I've talked about, like, if you have characters in uniforms, like a school uniform, for example, you can have characters alter it quite a bit. Because, like, you know, it's school, kids are going to be acting out. Or even, like, if they're older and they have a uniform, like, I don't know, a college that has a uniform. But, you know, they can mess with it because it's a lot more voluntarily someone is there. But military, it's like you gotta be, your uniform has to be exact. They're very strict about that in military settings. I almost like in this version of him, where he's wearing like the sweater over the collared shirt, it has more of that kind of like square mixed with triangle, just because you have the triangle like collar to the shirt and then the square pieces of like the shoulder patches. I'm trying to think if you could bring it into his like his other stuff, like maybe bringing in some like paneling on the shirt, like just having like some stitching or something to have like squares and kind of break it up with like the triangles of the collar and the buttons and stuff. He's normal military, not the special squad, so no lax rules. Yeah, exactly. It is hard that way. Because if you have like the special squad where maybe they're more casual or they have more power to have the unique uniform, that is tough. That's difficult. I think as long as you like, yeah, keep the silhouette how you want it, because you could do something like he has like the very square silhouetted body, and then the maybe his sleeves and stuff can have that like triangle effect. You'd have to play around with it. Yeah, see what you can do with just like stylization, with like bringing more of that shape from his face in. Because I feel like you have the base there. It just needs to be like pushed a little bit more. And then color story wise, I think it works great. He's got obviously like the uniform has this very like brown, green, red thing going through. And I think his coloring of his like hair and skin really complements the uniform that he's in, because he's got like a bit of a red tint to his skin, which really helps. Like it like harmonizes with the browns and the red of the belt, obviously. And then it has a good contrast to like the green camo pieces and the green sweater pieces. Yeah, so it's simple color stuff, but I think it works really well. He works as a good secondary character, where I think due to his shape stuff, he stands out. And then the colors are more subdued than maybe like what a main character would get, where you probably want them to stand out more. Yeah. Did you have any questions about our lovely fella here? Anything you wanted critiqued that I haven't touched? Nope, that's great. Awesome. We'll do the next one. So these two characters... Oh, right. Okay, I'll start with Ylva. They're from the same comic. Is the comic The Gion? She's meant to live in Scotland in 1099 AD. Ooh, cool. Yee. Okay. The plushie is cute. Okay, so the vibe I get from Ylva is she seems rugged. She seems she looks mischievous. I think part of it is this expression you've drawn here, where she's looking kind of like, huh? But she feels like that kind of like, if you're thinking in anime terms, I'm thinking of that like cheeky delinquent type, where they're like kind of sweet and dumb. Yeah, but she's just got a very mischievous little smile. She seems kind of scruffy, and maybe a little dumb, and we love that for her. I really like her design a lot. There's a lot going on. There's really good contrast going on in her coloring. And I really like the shapes going on as well. So I do love her hairstyle. I love the little like shaved out bit for her face paint. Is it paint or a scar? Or a tattoo? It looks like it glows. I also don't know if she's a human. Magic markings? Yeah, exactly. She's got the little pointy ears, and you know, you get me with pointy ears. You know it's a design I like if you give them pointy ears. But yeah, she's got this lovely, just triangular little shape to her, where everything's got like a little bit of a point. She's not human. She comes from the Earth core. Cool. I like it. Yeah. She's the last known Gion? Oh, cool. Okay, okay. So the Gion are people who live in the Earth? Cool. But yeah, anyways, the shape, the triangle. So I love how it shows through in the stitching on her clothing. I like how it shows in like the way her arms are wrapped and her legs are wrapped. You can see it in the shape of like her face and her eyes, her eyebrows, hair, everything. Even with like the magic markings, it's more curved, which I think is suitable. But it creates this like kind of triangle silhouette. It's nice. It's well done. They're born there and shot of a volcano. Me though. I love it. Okay, okay. Gotcha. But yeah, she's so cool. I love her expression too, and the little tooth. That's great. Her colors are all very harmonious. Like the brown or maroon/brown in her clothing. It's nice and dark. It's a very good color for contrast, and it really makes like the gold/yellow on her clothing and wraps really stand out. And they also stand out really well on her skin because she's got like a darker toned skin. And I do like the red of her hair and markings and eyes. Again, it just harmonizes really well with the gold and the brown/maroon. So I think that's done really well. The only thing is that there's a disconnect between her head and the rest of her body, color-wise. So she's got all this like red up here because it's in her eyes, the marking, the hair. And there's none of it in her body. So like if you did the test where you cut your character into quarters, like down the center, through the middle, you want each quarter of your character to feel like it comes from the same character. And here the top half of the character feels very different from the bottom half, color-wise. So I feel like you either need to bring the gold and maybe some of this like triangle pattern into her hair and her face. It would be hard. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, it would be hard to get that red. Maybe if she had more markings on her body, like more of the like claw markings, maybe on her legs or something. Or you could bring the gold up top, whether that's like a hairband or a piece of jewelry, something, because it feels very disconnected between the face and the body. You could also do it by maybe using some accessories that would be that red, like bird feathers, maybe some like dried plant or berries or flowers or something, or jewels. If you want it to be more kind of like rock, earth themed. I do want to do that. I have just no idea what markings would do or look like. Yeah, I wonder if maybe I wonder if you could do some like.
Hey.
Miku. Miku.
Pulling down stockings.
Girly. Don't pull down stockings. Miku. She's being silly. That kitty cat. Yeah, I wonder with the markings, because I think you could keep that, like, the 4 lines going. I wonder if maybe you could do, like, a wrap around her leg, or an arc across the calf, or, like...
Hey.
Or going down her arms. Like, maybe you don't see all of it because of her clothing, but... I think you could really play around with it and get some interesting ideas. They go down her back, but you can't see them? Oh, interesting. I wonder if... she's civilized enough to wear clothes. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the design on her back is, if it's just the lines or if there's more to it, but you could have part of it come down, maybe like wrap around her thigh and go down one of her legs, possibly. Because I think if you did it, because it's on her left side facing us, you could do it on her right leg facing us. So then you get this kind of like diagonal mismatched, not mismatched, like diagonal kind of feel. And having it be asymmetrical. It could be similar to her hair. That would work. Then she could kick fire. Oh, that'd be so cool. Yeah. But the asymmetry, because she has like the part of her hair that's shaved off asymmetrically, that could work by having it also asymmetrically on her leg. Yeah. And the other thing I would say, because she has this living teddy that she has, if you could bring in... So I think it works, because like you said, they wouldn't have that like bright red dye for the stuffy, and I like how the maroon matches with Eva's clothing. I'm wondering if you could bring a gold element in. Even if it's just like, I don't know, a necklace or a ribbon or something. I think that would tie the characters together even more. Yeah. You guys hear Matica going, woo, woo. She's very upset that she's in her kennel. I hope she doesn't yell through the whole stream, but we'll see. Yeah. Did you have any other questions about this one? I realized none of my comics had mascots, so Magni was born. Cute. I like it. That's great. Awesome. So then this is the other character from the same story. So this is Titus. Okay, what's the vibe I get from him? He gives me like a smug, kind of cocky vibe. Like, that's just the expression he's given. It's just very, like, he seems like very self-assured and calm, but he can also be, like, tough if he needs to, you know? He feels like he'd be, like, hanging back and, like, observing things, and then if he got called into the fight, he'd, like, kick butt. You know? He stays off to the side until absolutely necessary. He, like, observes things, and then he makes his strategy and goes in. That's my vibe. That's the vibe I get from him. So I do like how, so if this is another main character, I do like how he shares the gold with Ylva. But his major color is this, like, navy blue, dark blue kind of color. Where even it's a bit more gray on his body with, like, the stockings and his shirt and boots. And then it's a bit brighter on his facial hair. Titus is the main character and love interest to Ylva. Oh, okay. I like it. Yeah. Yes, but I do love the gold through line. That does connect them, and I do like they have their own, like, main color that belongs to them. I think so. I find his coloring it's very cohesive, partly because the blue of his facial hair and head hair is so similar in color to the gray that he wears, where it looks like it's the same blue, just, like, desaturated. Again, I'm wondering if you could bring this blue through. I'm also wondering if maybe you'd want to brighten up this blue of his hair and eyes. I kind of like it though. Like, it's dark enough that it's, like, it's not natural, obviously. Like, people don't naturally have blue hair like this, but it still stands out, but it feels a bit more, like, naturalistic than maybe, like, a really bright blue would. But I'm wondering if it needs, like, contrast between his clothing and his hair a little bit more. Like, they're very close in value. Comic lore allows it to be natural. Okay, well, in that case, if you're able to maybe keep the same saturation, like, keep it a bit more of, like, a dull color, but if you lightened it a little bit, that might help with contrast. Because I love the contrast between the gold and the color of his clothing. Like, that's got really great contrast. It really stands out against the gray. But yeah, maybe, like, lightening his hair. Maybe not brightening it, but lightening it, if that makes sense, would help make it stand out. And then I think, again, the same issue I had with Ylva's design, I feel like you need to bring that blue of his hair into the rest of the design somehow. So that could be, it could be some, like, a gem or feathers or some lacing that's that color, something like that. And it wouldn't have to be a big piece, but just something introduced through the design. To bring that color into the rest of the character a little bit more. I love this little king, by the way. That's me. That's how I look. Yeah. His facial hair also makes him look older. And, like, that's not a problem, like, because, you know, in different eras, people had different facial hair styles that were popular. But it does make him look older than 21. So that's just something to note. He's middle-aged. That's valid. At least in the era he's in. Yeah, fair. So yeah, he can have a more mature look, if that's the case. If he's not supposed to be like a young man kind of thing in his culture. Because if you wanted him to look kind of more young and naive, I'd get rid of the facial hair. But if you want him to be like, feel more mature, then I think it works. He'd be an adult at 10. Oh my god. Goodness. The past was the worst. Want him to be mature because Ylva is an overpowered gremlin. Okay, I like that. I like that dynamic. I like he's the more measured, mature one, and she's like the wild child. I like it. I think that works. Did you have any other questions from this? And him being a year younger is funny to me. That's also valid. Is her, because she's not a human, is she more long-lived than him? Know how to improve them? Thank you, no problem. Thank you for submitting. Yeah. I like it. Awesome. Okay. So, is anyone here who would like to go next? We have Nali, Laurence, Mouth. Are any of you here? He'll die at 50. She'll live to 200. Oh my god. Baby. So she's itty baby. And he's middle-aged man. I like it. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm gonna put Matica outside because she's crying up a storm. No, not
She wants outside. Go with your mom.
I'm back. Alright, Nali, Laurence, Mouth. Okay, I'm gonna start with Nali. And if any of y'all are here, speak up. And I can look at yours next. Alright. So, what did Nali say? Let me see. So they said, here's the final PDF of the first chapter. I'm super proud to share this with you guys. Can't wait to hear what you say. What I want from this critique is anything involving the dialogue and explanation of the story. I feel that the first chapter goes at breakneck speed. Not sure if it's working or not. Awesome. Okay. So when I did read through it, I think there's a lot that works really well. I think I agree that some parts of it feel very quick. The eyes at the back are scary. They are. They're intimidating. I love the color, by the way. The colors work really, really well on the cover. I like the way the warmer colors really pop against all the blues. It's nice. It's very balanced. Right. But I found that the relationships between the characters are very clear. I like them a lot whenever the characters were interacting. Is like so fun. They have a great dynamic as like a team. I think I mentioned it in the last when you submitted this as like sketches and some like inked pages. Like yeah, I'm excited to have the characters like paired up in different groups, and separating them is fun because you get the interesting dynamics between them. There's a lot of great like little comedic bits between all the characters that's really well done. And yeah, they're all just very distinct, very fun characters. I like them a lot. They're characterized very distinctly. And then for dialogue and like pacing, so I really love, there's like the little opening prologue bit where we get the explanation of like the world, how there was this war between monsters and humans, and how things have kind of settled out, and there's been like an emotional toll for our main character and for others, obviously. I think that was portrayed really, really well. And I think you do a great job setting up the threat of the chimera that they're chasing, because you have a good explanation of like, this is what this monster is, this is why it's dangerous, this is why it's hard to fight, kind of thing. Which sets off the little person with the big axe is very cool. Yes, we love that. I personally love, my favorite character so far is like this guy. I like the main character a lot too. He's like a characterization I really like, where he's like more sensitive and quiet, but I also really like this guy. He's my fave. The guy in the middle. What was I saying? Right, so you do a good job setting up the threat, and I think there's really good payoff for when they fight the monster, they're separated. There's high stakes. The threat is established really well, and I find the pacing of that works really well. The only thing that feels too quick to me is the setting out of their journey. So like, you set up the threat really well, but it just feels really quick. Because they arrive off the boat, they're told like, you're seeking this weapon, and then they're gone and they're off into the woods. Like, this is like 2 pages of setup, and it feels like it needs more. So it's because I'm not sure who this lady is. She seems very important. I don't think she's even named. She's just called Your Excellence. And if it's mentioned earlier and I just missed the dialogue, I'm very sorry about that. But I think we just need like that little extra bit of like establishing who our characters are. So you establish the world, you establish the threat, you've established like their friendship and everything, but we need like, we kind of need like the where piece. Because we have who, we have what, we have a little bit of why. Honestly, I'd like more why and more where. I'm like, where are we? What is this little village that they're entering? Like, where is the wilderness they're going into? Who's this lady that's giving them this task? I think we need a little bit more of that like status quo setup before they go off into the woods and start and get attacked by this monster. I think that's the only piece that needs expanding, and I think that would help your pacing as well. Because it's fine when they are in the woods, besieged by the monster. I think that it's fine for that to be fast-paced. Like, that suits the scene that it is. And you have the setup of, like, what this monster is and why it's so dangerous. So I think having that go quickly works really well, but I think you need to slow down this beginning piece. And I know that can be hard. That's something I've, like, struggled with in my own writing, where, like, the introduction feels boring. You're like, it's boring to, like, set up who my character is at the start, like, where they are. But it's really important because it sets up so much later on in the story. It kind of gives your reader kind of ground to stand on as they enter into this adventure. But the dialogue, I think, is easy to follow. I think you characterize your characters well through your dialogue. Like, they all have very distinct ways of speaking, and the way you visually make them distinct is also, like, really, really great. But I think it's supported by the dialogue. I would tell you, on the visual side, there's sections of narration. Madoka. Is she licking her foot? Was she licking her foot? Yeah. Oh, Madoka. Over licking. Oh, right, but these sections of narration, they're well placed. Like, they're very easy to follow and read. It has very good, like, flow on the page. I would say you need more of an outline. Some of them, if they're over, like, a lot of visual noise, so, like, this panel here of our main character looking in the mirror, because it's going over, like, the porthole and the edge of the mirror and this cloth/coat that's hanging up, and over the part of the bed. Like, there's a lot of visual noise behind it. It needs more of an outline to help make the text stand out against it. So I'd make that white outline thicker. Probably, I mean, I don't know how big your canvas is, so that depends on how big it is. But I think it needs to be, like, doubled or tripled in size of what the outline is right now. Because it can be hard to read at times. And the other thing there's a few places where I think you're missing some punctuation. Like, you're missing a lot of, like, periods at the ends of sentences. Because whenever you have a question or an exclamation point, you're very good at putting it in, but I think a lot of them, you're missing, like, commas or periods at the end of sentences. So that's just something to be mindful of. Oh, I also love your typography in your sound effects, and when characters are, like, shouting, there's a few of them that are really good. Like, yeah, I love when he's, like, he's, like, screaming and saying, "Oh my god," and it all you just have, like, a very expressive way of doing your lettering. There's also parts where characters are shouting. Like, I love this pop when the shoe comes off. Yeah, follow that monster, where, like, it really stands out to show just, like, the emotion of what's happening. I think your hand lettering stuff is, like, really, really nice. I love all the sound effects and special lettering for, like, special circumstances. That works so well. Yeah. The perspective. Yeah, the perspective is good too. Yeah, I love this page where the older fella is explaining the chimera. It's so cool. But yeah, visually everything is, like, stunning. Like I said, I love the typography. You've got a really great sense of like movement and flow. The action scenes work really, really well. I love your line work that you do. There's the later scene where our main character, who I can't remember the name of, I'm sorry, when he's on his own. I do love the line work of the background and the way you use it to kind of like heighten the tension and also kind of show like, I know there's like the reveal the monsters behind him, so I love how it just looks like it could be the trees and just like the heightened emotion where it makes them feel like they're curling in on him, and then it's revealed that it's actually the monster behind him. Like, that's so cool. Your line work is lovely. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, really great action, very easy to follow. It's Bones. Oh, you're right, it is Bones. Bones is like, I'm running away. But yeah, lovely action, great characters. There's just a few things with some of the setup, like I said. Hopefully that's helpful and not just like annoying. He's off to write Evo 3, exactly. Bones is like, wait, I'm busy, goodbye. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful, Nali. Let me know on Discord if you have any questions. I would be happy to answer. And then we'll move on to Lawrence. Lawrence, if you're here, make your presence known. I don't think you're here. So I'll read what you wrote on Discord. Wait. Okay, so a comic page layout to look at. For context, there's a war between two factions called Ice Empire and Lightning Empire. My character is the gray/silver one, and their name is Winnie. General art critique would be wonderful, as well as what your first thoughts about the page are after looking at it, vibes/suspicions, and anything like that. Awesome. So I think you have a very good sense of like space and characterization. I mean, there's a lot of great like imagery going on through this. Where like I love the you know, shadows in the background. You see the cats fighting. I love this last panel of like the footsteps in the snow. It just feels so like desolate, and there's almost this like implication of like fate or not being able to go back, like going out on a journey to like finish this war that you know, you didn't start, and the gradual shift from these like more kind of like light what was it, kind of light faded kind of nostalgic feel to the colors, and then it gets darker and more bleak as it goes down. I think there's a very good transition kind of emotionally that suits the narrative of this page, where it's like, you know, cubhood doesn't last forever. You have to grow up, and you have to prepare for war. I think there's a very good transition emotionally between everything. And the color story is very interesting for how it goes very light and then transitions down to the darker image at the bottom. I also will say I love your rendering on this last panel here. I love like the glistening in the snow. There's lots of depth to it with like we're looking through trees. I love how that frames everything. Yeah, just very well rendered. Really, really lovely colors. Yeah, it's very strong. Sorry, I think my chair is sinking. Hold on.
It is.
My dang chair. This chair's the worst. We really need to get a better one. I'm just like sliding away. Okay. Yes. So, I also do appreciate in the first panel the transition of time. I mean part of it is because you have this character's face here. It's Winnie looking back on their past. And you see the transition of like them laughing and playing in the snow, and then them with their friend. So I like the use of like time changing within one panel. And I think that does help with your like transitionary kind of mood between each panel. Whereas like breaking it up with like multiple panels of the characters having fun in their youth would probably, well, no, it could still work, but I think I like, it's interesting the way you've kept it as one panel, to kind of like separate your ideas. And there's lots of movement in each panel, which is great. Because even though you have lots going on, there's lots of nice like diagonals through your pages. I find with the artwork, there's really great flow, and your lettering follows it for the most part, because you have this you start here with this character, kind of brings you along through these images, down to the two characters laughing. That brings you down to like the shadow puppets of the fighting, and that brings you over to the silhouette of your character here, and then that brings you just the following of the shadow and the eye line brings you through the lettering and then into this cave bit, and then you're brought up through the lettering here, and then you follow the footsteps down to the bottom. So I think the artwork does a lot to kind of move your eye through it, which is great. Like you need to keep that sense of flow with your artwork. I think the lettering, there's some places it could be utilized more strongly. That was a weird way to word it. I think your lettering could be stronger. So I love this part where it says we have to grow up. That's very strong because you've used the grow up to kind of fall into the shadow. And it really follows along that line of movement. I find the places where it says like cubhood doesn't last forever and sooner or later, they just feel so tucked up into the corner and they don't suit the flow of the image. They kind of break the flow of things. Part of that could be helped by like adjusting some of the lettering around. I think part of it is it feels like it wasn't. I think you need to treat more of the lettering because you have some of it like the grow up and the war bits in the second and third panels. Like it feels like they're very considered into the panel layout. And integrated into the artwork quite well, but I think your other lettering needs to be integrated in the same way. So I think you need to treat your captioning, your lettering, bubbles and dialogue. I think it needs to be brought into the artwork and given the same weight as the artwork pieces. For for a lot of it. So like the cubhood line, the sooner or later line, and even like and prepare for a war and our parents started, like they all feel just shoved off to the side. Like they've been shuffled aside so that we can look at the artwork, and I think they need to be integrated into the artwork further. Yeah, so you can play around with like placement of words. You can play around with and I don't think it's necessarily wrong to have like lettering all in one line. I think again it's just placement, because for this top panel, cubhood doesn't last forever. It just feels like really shoved up into the corner. I think if this panel had more height and that was given some more room to breathe, I think it could fit in really well. With sooner or later, I think because this has such like an interesting shape within the artwork, shuffling around, like you could keep sooner where it is and then maybe put the or down here and then later down here, and it would cover up some of this artwork, but I think it could be integrated into it really well, just to create that sense of like downward motion towards your next piece of artwork. And then for prepare for and our parents started, there's like all this negative space over here that is just like totally blank. And don't get me wrong, you rendered this really beautifully. Like I love the detail of like the marbling in the rock and the shadow and the light, the glistening of the snow, but I think if you put your lettering in here, it would suit the composition a lot better. So it sucks because you have really beautiful artwork and you don't want to cover it up, but you got it. It works for the composition to cover up some of this pretty artwork. And stop shoving your text off into the side because you have a good sense for composition. You gotta bring your text into it as well. And the last thing I'll say compositionally is I think each of these panels is given too much space. And by that I mean they're all the same size panel. Like there's a little bit of variation because you have some of these diagonal lines cutting your panels, which is great for flow. Like don't stop doing that. Like if you have a panel, it is totally fine to make it diagonal, or make the panel not totally square or rectangle. That really helps with flow. It makes it very dynamic. It can add energy to a page. So don't stop doing that. But each of these panels is about the same size. So none of them are given more weight than the other. So I would... The way I look at it when I'm structuring a page out is I always think of like a focal panel. So there's usually one panel in your page that is delivering like the point of your page. So like, if you're ever writing, you'll see this in like essay writing and prose writing and stuff. Every paragraph has like a reason it's there. There's a reason it's grouped into its own paragraph. It's delivering a certain statement. It has a purpose, and each panel is the same way. And it's the same with sentences as well. Each sentence has a point to it, and each sentence builds up to support the full paragraph. And a page and panels are the same way. So your page is your paragraph, and your panel is your sentence. And so within that paragraph, you may have sentences that build up your purpose, but you might have one sentence that like maybe it delivers like the punchline, maybe it delivers like the thesis statement of this paragraph. But there's usually one, and you know, in writing it's not given visual space the way it is in a comic page, but there will there usually will, actually I don't know if this makes sense because but you know, you will have in a paragraph you'll have like supporting sentences and then your like statement sentence, your key sentence that is the point of why they're grouped into this paragraph. But anyways, my metaphor is getting away from me. But In a comic page, you'll usually have one page that is kind of delivering the reason for this page. An easy way to think of it is like a reveal. Maybe you have 2 or 3 panels building up the tension of like they're going to open a door, and then the last panel is the door opening. That's like an easy one to think of. So then your focal panel would be the door opening. Everything else is like setting that up. And there's other ways you can frame it. Like you could, maybe the most important thing is them reaching for the door. It's maybe not them opening the door to build that tension. So it's always important to figure out like what is the purpose of this page and what panel supports it the most. Like what delivers that punch, what delivers the message that you're trying to give with this page. With this one, I think they're all interesting statements. I think there's some good rhythm to what you're doing, where each of your panels has a statement, and the artwork of the panel supports like the statement of the text. But I think you need to figure out which one holds the most weight. And I think the way you arrange it could give a different message. So if you put, maybe if you made the top panel like the biggest panel, and then the last 2 panels smaller, that could really put emphasis on like the nostalgia of like cubhood and like thinking back on these great moments. And then you could, having the second 2 panels smaller could say like how quickly it dashes away, because the smaller a panel is, the quicker someone will read it. The larger a panel is, the more time someone will spend looking at the panel. So that's a way to control pacing. Yeah, and if you had, say, the last panel saying prepare for a war, our parents started, you could really focus on like the consequence of growing up, the consequence of this war, that maybe they don't know why they're fighting it. Yeah, so I think consider that a little bit more for future pages. Think about like what part of the page needs the most emphasis. Because if you have every panel, and here's the thing, it can work. For a page, you may have a page where like every panel needs the same amount of weight. It can create like a sense of like rhythm, you know, like a drum beat kind of thing, if that makes sense, where everything's getting the same weight. You can use it as like a pacing tool, or like everything on this page has the same amount of like weight, and it needs to all be highlighted at the same amount. But I'd be careful to like understand when you're doing that, because if you do that for every page where every panel is the same, it can be kind of boring. It can be repetitive in a way you don't want it to be. I think you can create more. Typically, you can create more impact by having maybe a larger focus panel, focal panel. I've heard them called key panels. Yeah, so that's just something to be mindful of for future things, because I think you can create a lot more like impact by maybe playing around with the sizing of some of these panels, and it just depends on what part you want to highlight the most. Yeah. So that's my critique. I don't know where to go after my big rant. But overall, yeah, really great artwork. Like I said, I love what you're doing with parts of the typography. Like the "we have to grow up" is just like chef kiss for typography. And your artwork is gorgeous. Like I think you have a really great sense of like expression and like composition with artwork. I think it's just messing around with the size of your panels to convey emphasis, and treating your text elements as an artwork element, and I think your artwork will just like explode in even more quality than it already is. That's it. Lawrence, when you see this, let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them on Discord. So next we have mouth. So, mouth, if you are here, speak. I wouldn't say or forever hold your peace, because you can talk to me on Discord later if you have questions. But let me know if you're here. Alright, so you said, I'm applying for my school's design program. Please give a graphic design critique. It's supposed to be a poster design parodying a magazine clothing ad. I'm struggling with the colors. I'm thinking of making it very blue heavy, because I'm making a corresponding vampire one that's very red heavy. Any advice for making relatively monochromatic color schemes would be awesome. I have so much trouble choosing colors. Choosing colors is tough, because they are very subjective. And I think you're headed in the right direction with choosing like your primary color, your main color, to be like these blues. If you have like a kind of twin ad that will be using reds for like the vampire one, werewolf one can be blue. I think that's good. I would say this one's really cool. It is really cool. I really love the concept, by the way. I would say with the color scheme, there's lots of different ways you can use a color scheme. I would say, when I'm thinking of branding, so typically when I've done branding work, you'll have like your main color. So when I say primary color, I don't mean like the primary colors on the color wheel. I mean like your hero color, your standout color. Sometimes this can be like, say you have a brand with like a colored logo. Sometimes this could be like their logo color. Sometimes it could be like, it typically is just like the color that has like the most importance in the hierarchy. So typically it's hard. It can go either way. It can either be a color that you use like the most in the image. So let's say like the blue. Let's say like this blue is your main color. You'd use it for like the logo of this clothing store. And maybe use it for like all your backgrounds and like big elements. And then let's say you use an orange, so like completely complementary color, complete opposite on the color wheel to the blue, that you use in small amounts, but you use it to make highlights because it really pops against the blue. So the whole thing is very blue, and then you have these like little pops of orange that they're like your secondary color. And then I usually add a third color, like a tertiary color. Honestly, I'd make the orange the tertiary color because it'll appear the least in the piece, but it gets the most highlight because of that. So let's say your blue is your main color. Let's say you have a gray as your secondary color, so you use it to like kind of harmonize with this blue. You use it to really like make the blue stand out, but you still have another color to work with. And then the orange, because it's so contrasty to your blue and your gray, you use it for say like your CTA, meaning call to action. That's like the marketing term. So that would be the shop now part of this poster. You'd make that your orange so that it really pops against your blue and your gray. You can flip that, so if your blue is your main color that you really want to stand out, if it's like your logo color, You could make that like your tertiary color in this color scheme so that wherever the blue is, it really pops. So then everything else you could maybe make like orange, maybe gray or yellow or something that will really make the blue pop. So then you can use your secondary color, your secondary / primary color everywhere, and then your tertiary color is like the brand color that you use sparingly to make little pops to make it stand out. I've done that in branding in my graphic design work where say like the color is yellow. The only time we use yellow is on the logo and on the CTA button where we want people to click to go to our website and buy whatever, you know. So that's one way to look at it. If you're not sure how to pick colors, I'd recommend starting with like I think it's called coolers.io or something like that, or coolers.co, something like that. But it's basically a tool that like makes color schemes for you, and people have like user submitted color schemes. That's a good place to start looking. If you're not sure, I'd stick with just like 3 colors. Again, have one that takes up like most of the real estate, then one that like highlights it, and then your third color that you use really sparingly to like make things pop. Hopefully this all makes sense. It's hard to discuss without having like a visual to show you what I mean. But then if you're pairing this with another color or another poster, because you say this is your blue one, you want a red one, what I would do is maybe flip the colors. So let's say with this one, let's say blue is like your main color. So most of it is blue. Let's say you use a gray or something. You can use another color, obviously. But let's say your gray is your secondary. Use it to support things. And then let's grab a red, which will pop against the blue. That can be your tertiary highlight color. So you could use it on your shop now piece. And then flip it for the vampire one. So red is then the main color in your vampire one. Use the gray to support it. And then your blue you use to really pop out against it. So then they would feel, because you're using the same colors, they would feel connected. It's the same thing you do with character designs in comics. In fact, Kuroe earlier in this stream had a really great example of this. I'll show you, because her characters here, even though they have separate coloring, red and blue, they still have this gold that kind of connects them together as like characters on the same team. So you can do that same idea with like these posters, where having like a similar color through line can bring them together even if you're using very different colors as your like main hero color. Yeah, and if you want to go really monochrome, so maybe you only use blue and a couple other like shades of this blue, where some are darker, some are lighter, I would then grab like maybe a second color. Again, this red would really work to make things pop, or use contrast to make things pop. So you can use something really dark to pop out against something really light, or vice versa, something really light to pop out against something really dark. Okay, hopefully all that color stuff makes sense. Choosing colors is difficult. I feel you. Okay, so now let's get into like the layout, which is very important for design. So I think to me, this reads more like a comic page than it does like a catalog spread. So I think you've got a great idea for it, where you've got this like headline with the werewolf like winking and pointing. And I think you have all the elements here. I think just the size is what is making it feel more like a comic page than like an advertisement layout. So catalog advertisements can be difficult. I've worked with clients where they have like a bunch of things that they want to put on and it ends up feeling very cluttered, where like I tend to go for like a really minimalist design, which is one I prefer. And obviously there's different designs. Like it doesn't have to be minimalist to work. Things can be very like maximalist or like very busy and still work as advertisements. but you still need that hierarchy to make things easy to read, especially if you have lots of elements going on. So hierarchy, think of it like any hierarchy. So think of it like, your headline, that's the king or queen. And then your secondary headline, that's like the prince, princess, non-binary, prince-X. And then below that is like your body text. Maybe that's like the peasants of the kingdom. That can be used everywhere. But you want your king or queen or monarch, the top of your hierarchy, to be like the biggest build thing. And you can give it like the most space with like color. You can use size. Those are typically the two really big hierarchy things, but there's other things you can look into. I'd look into the I use Princette for my non-binary royalty. I like that a lot. Princette. I like when it's like an emperor or empress and they say emprex. I think that one's really good. What was I saying? I would look into the elements and principles of design. They'll teach you that in your course once you get in. But it'll teach you a lot about like layout and color and different elements that make your designs really stand out. So with this, I would say Western wear here, which would be, I guess, your logo for this shop that's selling werewolf clothing. I would make that your queen, your king. I would make that really big, and I would make this stuff smaller. So werewolf looking for Western wear, look no further than. I would make that much smaller so that Western wear is like your hero, that's your king that you've got at the top of your page. So make that much bigger, and then you can either keep these the same amount, same size, or make them much smaller. And then all these little tidbits, these are like your bullet point tidbits. So like comfortable tail holes, Western wear during transformation, other brands during transformation, that comparison. Actually, you kind of have like 4 different things going on here. So you have your hero text, your king. Here, I'll use all the lady version. So you have your queen, which is your heading here. Then you have, I would say your princess would probably be your shop now. Because that's your CTA, that's your call to action. That's what you want people to do with this advertisement. And then you have 2 other kind of like groups of information. So you have comfortable tail holes, built to withstand hard work and to last past the full moon. These feel like they could be grouped together. They're highlighting the points about this brand, what makes them stand out. And then the other thing that you could group together, because it's 2 pieces of information, but they're like under the same umbrella of information. So Western wear during transformation, other brands during transformation. So I'd separate those out a little bit. Right now they're very mixed together. I would group Western wear during transformation and other brands. I'd kind of group that off to its own space and give comfortable tail holes and built to withstand hard work to last past the full moon. I'd kind of bring those together. I'd honestly make built to withstand hard work to last past the full moon. I'd give that a bit more space than comfortable tail holes. It feels a bit more like let's say it was like a duchess, which is like below princess. That's your duchess. And then comfortable tail holes would be maybe like a peasant. Like it's important, but it's not as important as like this statement about the brand. And then yeah, so you'd have to balance all the different pieces, but I think you need to separate Western wear versus other brands to be like its own little section, and then comfortable tail holes to be like a little bit smaller. It's not quite as important as like probably how the clothing works for transformation, and it's not as important as like the built to withstand piece. And I think you can have this kind of like really bouncy placement of things where you've got these kind of like triangular diagonal lines going through here. But they need to be a lot smaller in comparison to your queen up here. I think right now it feels very much like it's hard. It's really hard to get like the balance with things. With different elements, but right now it just feels everything feels very much weighted the same, and I think you need to work. I'd start with size, so size things so that your queen is like the biggest, princess is like second biggest, duchess is third, and then peasants is like the smallest stuff, and play around with that. And yeah, like I said, you could maybe line it up into more of a grid if you wanted it to be like a little bit more serious looking. But I think for this particular advertisement, like it's supposed to be more fun. And I think you can keep this like bouncy kind of like triangular shape to your content down here. It creates a lot of visual interest. It keeps you looking around, but I think it needs to be organized just a little bit more. Or I think you need that built to withstand above as kind of like a heading to these little subheaders of like comfortable tail holes, Western wear during transformation, other brands during transformation. And hopefully all that makes sense. It's really hard to just talk about it and not show it. I would almost, if you haven't already, I would grab some advertisements that are similar to this. This has like a very like kind of 1950s feel. Like parodying 1950s kind of like advertisement, or maybe even older. Oh, you do good explanations? Oh good, I'm glad. I'm glad it's helpful. Yeah, I would either find, because I think like if you grabbed like a modern magazine spread, it would probably be, I don't know if it would fit this kind of like satirical funny vibe to it. They're usually a lot more like minimalist. A lot of clothing brands, if they're like higher end, they tend to be very like high concept, very like luxury looking. They almost get kind of like artsy fartsy. Whereas this feels more kitschy, kind of old fashioned. So maybe like 50s, 20s, earlier than that. I think you could find some really cute pieces to parody. But I think looking at those and seeing the layouts of like a magazine page, I think that'll kind of show you the like how to balance your layout more. I definitely would go for maybe more like 50s, 60s, just because like way back when, I think they still had a good sense of like composition, but it was, there's some things that you probably wouldn't do. Whereas like, I think 50s, 60s, like that more modern kind of style, I think it'll suit contemporary sensibilities a little bit more with graphic design, while still being cheeky, because people do still parody those like old 50s ads all the time. Yeah, so look into that. I would also say, I think you have a good sense of where you're emphasizing your words. Like I really like how you have this like bold lettering that you're using for Western wear, which is like again your queen. And I like how you say it here. It's like Western wear and then other brands to really highlight the difference. And I like how other brands is smaller to like decrease its importance. Whereas like Western wear, you want to make big and bold, and like that's the thing you're advertising, and it's so much better. It's bigger. And comfortable is also great. I think with the built to withstand, if you just look at the bolded things, it says withstand last full moon. I would get rid of that last. I would just bold withstand and then full moon, even the full moon. So that even if someone's just glancing through it, they could see withstand the full moon. And they're like, oh, that's perfect. That's what I need as a werewolf. So I'd think of it like that. So yeah, you can either use this really bold text to highlight, I guess like the thesis. Because say if you had more text like comfortable tail holes, like say you had comfortable tail holes and sturdy stitching and I don't know, rip resistant, and you highlighted like comfortable, sturdy, rip resistant. People glancing at it could just see those bold highlighted bits. And you can also play around with it and create like sentences within your bold so that if they just see the bold stuff, they could see withstand the full moon. That's the other thing in advertising and graphic design is people don't read. It's very different than comics where like you can really use your text to like show things, because if someone's reading a comic, they're reading it. But in advertising, people don't read. You want to make it as simple to read as possible. So typically this means cutting down on text as much as possible. I mean, some stuff lends to more text, like if you're doing an email, that lends to more text than like a poster would. But it's always important to know that people don't read, so the easier you can make it for them. Like you can add bullet points, you can bold things that you want them to see, you can make things you want them to see bigger. But keep it short, keep it sweet. People don't read. Yeah, so play around with that. I hope this was helpful. I think you're well on your way. And I think, honestly, this would really work. I think you just got to play around with some of the sizing and using your colors to really highlight where you want people to look. Mouth, if you see this, please let me know if you have any questions. Also, I love this. This is so cute. Did I say that already? I love this werewolf. He's my guy. I love him. I think that's it. That's all. So yeah, folks who were not here for the stream, please let me know if you have questions when you see this. I'm happy to answer them in the Discord. If you are watching this and you yourself would like to get critiqued, you can join the Patreon or become a YouTube member. Both are at the $8 tier. And next month you can have your stuff critiqued here on stream. We do comics. You can submit like prose, like short stories or sections from novels, character designs, setting designs, sketches, inks, full colored stuff. We can look at it all. Yeah. I hope everyone is having a wonderful holiday. And I love you all. I wish you well. Goodbye. See you later. Mwah. Goodbye.